Is Nick Robertson's time in Toronto really over? Or are the Maple Leafs about to make the same mistake they made countless times before by giving up on young talent too soon? Here we go again. Folks, just when you thought the Maple Leafs had finally figured out how to develop and retain their young players, we're hearing rumblings that could send another promising forward packing his bags and heading out of town. And this time, the destination might be about as far from playoff contention as you can get: the San Jose Sharks. Yeah, you heard that right. Nick Robertson, a 24-year-old winger who's shown flashes of genuine NHL scoring ability, might be on his way to the Bay Area in what could be the latest chapter in Toronto's complicated relationship with its own draft picks. Let's cut right to the chase here. According to a report from Cam Robinson at Elite Prospects, the Maple Leafs are actively shopping Nick Robertson, and multiple Western Conference teams have expressed interest. The Sharks are front and center in these discussions, which honestly shouldn't surprise anyone who's been paying attention to how these two franchises have been doing business lately. In fact, this could be the third trade between Toronto and San Jose in less than a year. Let that sink in for a moment. 3 trades in 12 months between the same two teams. That's not coincidence. Folks, that's a relationship. But before we dive into where Robertson might end up, let's talk about why we're even having this conversation in the first place. Because the timing here is fascinating, and it tells us everything we need to know about where the Maple Leafs see their roster heading. Robertson signed a 1-year contract extension worth $1.8 million back on August 2nd, 2025. That deal was supposed to give him another shot to prove he belonged in Toronto's long-term plans. But here's the problem, or the opportunity, depending on how you look at it. Easton Cowan has arrived, and he's arrived in a big way. The young phenom has been turning heads at training camp, and it's becoming increasingly clear that there simply isn't room for both players in Toronto's lineup. Someone's got to go, and all signs point to it being Robertson. Now, I know what some of you are thinking. Here we go again. The Leafs giving up on another young player with potential. And look, I get that frustration. Toronto has a history of moving prospects and young players who end up thriving elsewhere. But let's be real about Robertson's situation in Toronto. He's 24 years old now, not some teenage prospect with unlimited upside. He's had opportunities to cement himself in this lineup. And while he's shown flashes, he hasn't been able to grab a permanent spot and run with it. Let's look at the numbers, because they tell an interesting story. Last season, Robertson scored 15 goals and added 7 assists for 22 points in 69 games. That's respectable production, especially considering he was averaging just 12 minutes of ice time per game. The season before that, in 2023 to 2024, he put up 14 goals and 13 assists for 27 points in 56 games, with an average of 11 minutes and 23 seconds of ice time. Here's where it gets really interesting. If you extrapolate those numbers and give Robertson closer to 15 minutes of ice time over a full 82-game season, you're looking at a player who could potentially hit 25 goals. That's legitimate top-6 scoring punch, and it's exactly what a team like San Jose desperately needs as they continue their rebuild. The Sharks are in an interesting position right now. They're young, they're rebuilding, and they need scoring from anywhere they can get it. Robertson would fit perfectly into their timeline. He's still young enough to be part of their core moving forward, but experienced enough to contribute immediately and help mentor some of their younger players. Plus, and this is crucial, he'd likely see significantly more ice time in San Jose than he ever would in Toronto. That's not a knock on Robertson's ability. It's just the reality of playing on a stacked Leafs roster versus a rebuilding Sharks team. But San Jose isn't the only team in the mix. According to Robinson's report, several Western Conference teams have shown interest. The Chicago Blackhawks make sense. They're rebuilding and could use scoring help. Utah Mammoth, the newly relocated franchise, might be looking to add proven NHL talent to their lineup. The Nashville Predators, always looking for ways to improve their offensive output, could see Robertson as a low-risk, high-reward addition. And then there's the Edmonton Oilers, who are always in the market for depth scoring and have a proven track record of maximizing offensive players. The beauty of Robertson's situation, from a trading perspective, is that he shouldn't cost much to acquire. We're probably talking about a draft pick, maybe a third-rounder, possibly a fourth if Toronto is desperate to move him quickly. That's an incredibly low price for a player who's proven he can score at the NHL level and who's still young enough to have room for growth. Ryan Reaves, Robertson's former teammate who now finds himself in San Jose after being traded there in the offseason, had some interesting things to say about the young forward when asked by Max Miller of Sharks Hockey Digest. He's very skilled, has an incredible shot, and can put the puck in the net. Reaves said he finds ways to score. Every time he stepped on the ice, he found a way to score. A good little player. That's high praise from a veteran who's seen a lot of hockey and a lot of players over his career. And it speaks to something important about Robertson. When he's on the ice, he's dangerous. He finds ways to generate offense. He's had a legitimate NHL shot, and he knows how to finish. Those are valuable skills, and they're exactly what teams are looking for when they're scouring the trade market for affordable offensive help. Now, let's talk about the connection between Toronto and San Jose, because this is where things get really fascinating from a business perspective. These two franchises have developed quite the trading relationship over the past year. Last season, the Leafs shipped Timothy Liljegren to the Sharks to clear cap space, receiving Matt Benning, a 2025 third-round pick, and a 2026 sixth-round pick in return. Then, in the most recent offseason, they sent Reaves to San Jose in another cap-clearing move, getting defenseman Henry Thrun back. 2 trades in less than a year, and both times San Jose has been willing to help Toronto out of salary cap bind. That's not random. That's a working relationship. The Sharks have cap space to burn and are willing to take on contracts and players that don't fit in Toronto's plans. The Leafs need that flexibility to keep their championship window open. It's a mutually beneficial arrangement, and there's no reason to think it can't continue with Robertson. Here's what makes this potential trade even more logical. San Jose knows Robertson. They've got Reaves there now, who can speak to his character and work ethic. They've done business with Brad Treliving in the Toronto front office recently. So there's established trust and communication. And most importantly, they have the cap space and roster spots to give Robertson the opportunity he's been seeking, a chance to play meaningful minutes and show what he can really do over a full season. For Toronto, moving Robertson makes sense from a roster construction standpoint. With Easton Cowan pushing for a roster spot and established players like Mitch Marner, William Nylander, and Matthew Knies locked into top 6 roles, there simply isn't room for Robertson to get the ice time he needs to thrive. It's better for both parties to make a clean break now rather than have him sitting in the press box or playing limited minutes on the fourth line. But here's where Toronto needs to be careful. They can't afford to undersell Robertson just because they're desperate to clear a roster spot. He's a proven 20-goal scorer if given the minutes. He's on a reasonable contract, and he's still young enough to have upside. If San Jose or any other team is serious about acquiring him, Toronto should be getting fair value in return, whether that's a third-round pick, a mid-level prospect, or a combination of assets. The timeline here is also crucial. Training camp is wrapping up, and teams need to finalize their rosters for the 2025 to 2026 season within the next week. That means if a Robertson trade is going to happen, it needs to happen soon. And according to Robinson's report, it sounds like the wheels are already in motion. What's particularly interesting about this situation is what it means for the rest of Toronto's roster. Robinson mentioned that David Kampf, Kaye Jarnkrok, and Michael Petzetta are currently skating on what's being called a fifth line at training camp. Realistically, the Leafs only need 1, maybe 2 extra forwards. That puts Kampf as the next likely candidate to be moved after Robertson. We're looking at a potential roster overhaul here, with Toronto making multiple moves to optimize their lineup before the season starts. This is classic Brad Treliving management. He's not afraid to make tough decisions, and he's shown a willingness to move pieces around to get the roster construction he wants. If that means trading away popular players or guys who've been with the organization for a while, so be it. The priority is building a team that can win in the playoffs, not preserving feelings or honoring past relationships. For Robertson, this might actually be the best thing that could happen to his career. Let's be honest. He's never going to get top 6 minutes in Toronto with the current roster construction. But in San Jose, he could slot right into their top 6, play with skilled line mates, get power play time, and really show what he's capable of over a full season with expanded opportunities. Sometimes a change of scenery is exactly what a player needs to unlock their full potential. The Sharks will be getting a motivated player who has something to prove, who's hungry for ice time, and who knows how to put the puck in the net at a minimal cost. Likely just a draft pick. That's the kind of low-risk, high-reward move that rebuilding teams should be making all day long. If Robertson works out and hits that 25-goal mark, San Jose looks like geniuses. If he doesn't quite pan out, they're out a mid-round pick and can move on without any long-term consequences. From Toronto's perspective, moving Robertson clears a roster spot for Cowan or another young player to step in. It potentially saves them a bit of cap space if they retain any salary in the deal, and it maintains their relationship with San Jose, which could prove valuable down the road if they need more cap relief or want to make additional moves. The question now isn't really if Robertson gets traded, it's when and to whom. All the reporting suggests that a move is coming and coming soon. San Jose makes the most sense given the established relationship between the two teams and the Sharks' need for scoring and willingness to take on players who don't fit elsewhere. But don't be surprised if another team swoops in at the last minute with a better offer. What we're witnessing here is roster management in real time. The Maple Leafs are making the hard decisions necessary to optimize their lineup for a championship push. They're not going to let sentiment or loyalty cloud their judgment. If Robertson doesn't fit the long-term plan, he gets moved. Simple as that. So what do you think, Leafs fans? Is trading Nick Robertson the right move? Or is Toronto making another mistake by giving up on young talent too soon? Could he become yet another player who thrives after leaving Toronto? And Sharks fans, would you be excited to add Robertson to your young core? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I want to hear all sides of this debate. And if you're enjoying this deep dive into the latest Leafs trade rumors, show some love with a like and make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss any updates as this.